you're getting antsy. You're starting to look at old vacation pictures and you're wondering, when will you be able to go on vacation? Or you're an individual that's adventurous and you stepped out there anyway. Well, this is the channel for you. This is Reader Ready Set Go. Right now I've been looking at films, so I kind of want to look at travel as well. And so I've been looking at pictures because I'm ready to get back out there and enjoy some adventures. And I want to talk about why solo travel is important and what it would be like if you booked your own adventure post-quarantine. So stay tuned. All right, so why did I start solo traveling? So in 2015, I embarked on an adventure where I booked my very first solo adventure to Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico, for May 2016, I believe. Because I wanted to actually see the world around me, and I had been on trips previous. However, I've learned that my way of traveling may not necessarily fit in other individuals traveling. Typically, when individuals travel, they're looking for a vacation, so their experience is a lot different than mine. Whereas I want to wander around and see the sights and live as the people do. I'm not necessarily a water creature. If I go to a beach area, I'll sit out there just to say I did it, but I don't necessarily have to be by the beach, although I don't mind looking at it. So I like to hit the ground running with my sandals on cobblestones or roads that lead me to adventures. So what I did was booked a solo trip to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and from there, oh my goodness, I enjoyed my travels. Going to a city or a town by yourself is a whole different travel experience. What do I mean? Typically whenever I have traveled with family, it might take all day to load up the van and go to one site. And then after that, you have to load up to go to the restaurant. That might be it. When you're solo traveling, literally when I've embarked on a solo journey to Paris, I actually was able to do everything within or not everything, but on foot, seeing most of the main things within a 2-hour span. I ended up catching the train. Nope. In fact, my place where I stayed was not too far from one of the cathedrals. And I walked up the cathedral and did an overview of the city, and I could kind of see stuff. So then I walked to Moulin Rouge, had lunch. From there, I think I caught the train to the Louvre. Nope, to Notre Dame. I caught the train to Notre Dame. Then this was before it caught on fire. And then I walked down to the Louvre. And then I walked over to the Eiffel Tower. Hello, I walked all the way from Notre Dame to the Eiffel Tower. My little legs are killing me, but it was worth it. There's the Eiffel Tower. I'm gonna do a 360. Make a long story short, when you're solo traveling, it goes quick. So I encourage an individual who likes to move and see everything within one particular trip. That's your method, would be solo travel. That's the only way, because even if you just went with one other person, they may or may not want to do what it is that you want to do, unless it's your husband or something. Because with solo travel, it goes quick. You can see if you got a good wherewithal to navigate the transportation, it goes quickly. So with San Juan, I didn't have any expectations, so I didn't have any plans. And so everything was a bonus. So I ended up doing an adventure to the rainforest. I think it's called, it starts with a Y. It's Yunique, I believe. Yunque. The rainforest Yunque, I think. Or one. I don't remember. I also saw some museums. I walked down to the beach. I went into the, what do you call those ports wherever the military surrounds the city. I just remember being extremely hot though in those ports. The highlights of San Juan was actually the Bacardi rum factory. I don't drink, but it was still a highlight because you actually got to see how the rum was made, and they actually give you drinking vouchers, and you can pick what type of thing that you want to do. So I picked an actual where they showed me how to drink rum and actually serve rum and actually be a connoisseur of taste. So we got to learn how to open up rum through ice and water. And also we got to walk the grounds and actually see how it's made. And it was just a great adventure. And it was nice and cool over there, but in the forts, it was hot. But when I got over to the Bacardi Rum Factory, it was amazing weather. So I don't know why it was a differential in weather like that. You can also see the cruise boats. Most cruise boats hit San Juan over by the Walgreens on the port. So if you're going to take a cruise over to San Juan, there's a Walgreens right there, the infamous Walgreens that everyone goes to. Also noticed that we had a free trolley. I don't know if they still have that, so I didn't have to worry about transportation in San Juan, because you could hop on and off this trolley that went around the city for free. And there was just tons of things to do, and so that was my first adventure. I was very hesitant. I didn't do a whole lot because I was like, I'm by myself, Honey, once I got going good, I went to LA for $90 round trip. I went from, and mind you, at that time I was living in the Midwest. I went to Miami, Florida by myself. Oh, it was so great because I went in October and I was taking a chance because that's hurricane season, heavy, and so I was able to get discounted tickets on my flight and my hotel. I just had to hope for the best. Weather was amazing the entire time. So I went in on October. The beaches were empty. It was pretty much how I was doing a quarantine because everybody was in school and stuff. So I had the beaches to myself. I went down to Key West. It was amazing. I had booked a bus ride down there, but knowing how it is now, I would have rented a car because it's too easy to get to. It's a straight shot down south. And I just would have rented the car. I think it cost me $75 round trip for the bus ticket down. I guess it depends on what you want to do. Like if the rental car is cheaper, go for it. I just was able to get discount tickets because I went in all season. And then Key West was great. And definitely a more kickback vibe. If I were to do Key West over, I would spend the night, maybe 2 or 3 days. And it would be my writing or something. Reading session. Because there's not a whole lot to necessarily do per se, as much as it was very relaxing. So you can do like water sports and stuff, but as far as seeing the sights, it's not a whole lot to see because it's like a beach resort area. But it's a great place to go to relax. I can see individuals honeymooning there if they want to be off the grid. So then moving forward, some other places that I've been, I booked a solo trip to Iceland. And then from there, so one thing you should know is that traveling to Europe, if you're going to be there for a while and you're going to see multiple sites, go ahead and book the cheapest country in Europe, because once you're in Europe, it doesn't matter where you're at in Europe, everything else becomes very cheap because you can utilize all types of systems. So for instance, you can catch the train, the bus, flights. So like for instance, I went on an excursion to Iceland, and while I was there, I connected to London. And so the basis of my trip was to go to London, but I was like, since I'm here, I went on and booked a train to Paris because I was already there. And Paris is typically the go-between. Like if you have to look at the countries, kind of how we look at the United States, like Atlanta, New York, LA, Chicago, those are our big go-between cities. It's easy to get in and out. There's tons of flights going in and out of them, so you can catch major deals. Hubs for Europe is typically Paris, London. You can get around cheaply to those individual countries. So I was like, since I'm here, I'll catch the train to Paris, stay a day or two, and then go on to another country. And I randomly booked Copenhagen. And no, I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it was a $20 flight. I said, I'll go check it out, and if it's terrible, I won't go back. Copenhagen ended up being the best adventure I ever went on. It was a $20 flight. I was treated like a rock star. And I even think my luggage was included because nobody was really flying during that time. She said, she just threw my black luggage on there. I had a seat to myself towards the front. It was barely anybody on the plane. I had courtesy through the stewardess. It didn't take long. It was gorgeous weather. It was such a happy place. And actually, I went to Copenhagen when J. Cole's KOD came out. So the entire time, every time I think about Copenhagen, I think about J. Cole. Because the entire time I was there, I was listening to KOD, and that was what was playing. Like anytime I go somewhere entertainment-wise, they were playing either that or his old CDs. And I actually ended up going through London on happenstance during Meghan Markle's wedding. I didn't plan it that way. It just so happened. And I found it interesting that when no one really, I thought it was going to be like, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, overdrive. Like, it wasn't. The people was like, yeah, it's happening, but it's just another day. Like, they didn't care like that. I think it was just more like the TV more care, because this is how you know is that I was able to go to Buckingham Palace and take pictures outside the gates. That's how you know the city wasn't shut down. Like, I thought it was gonna be shut down. So that was one adventure, and I've been to several other countries, and I'll talk about them individually, but I just want you to think about solo traveling. Those who are undecided, it's definitely a great adventure and a great way to see the things that you want to see. But if you're like me and didn't necessarily have any expectations of where you want to go, I knew I wanted to go to Puerto Rico, and I knew I wanted to go to London. Those are 2 trips I wanted to take in my whole life. With that being said, I had no expectations. So when I would search out trips, I would go for the cheapest, because I wanted to see the most with the least, spending of the least amount of money. And what I realized is that traveling is not as expensive as long as you know how to travel. You have to learn it in order to navigate it. So learning when off seasons are, and then pairing them with your work schedule. If you know you work in an industry where traveling in August, September, October, like, you can take vacation during those times, that's when I would travel. When kids are going back to school and stuff, there's a decrease in the amount of individuals traveling. So your off seasons are, where I found the best tickets were August, September, October. I don't travel in November, December, unless you're traveling the weeks in between their influx. So the week after Thanksgiving, or the first week of December when no one's traveling. That very first week and that second week of December are good times too, because no one's traveling, because everyone's getting ready for the holidays travel, which is that 3rd and 4th week. So there's weeks in between Thanksgiving and Christmas that I found were great for traveling. And that's when I went to LA, was that first week of December. And then there is pockets. So then for Christmas, typically people are waiting on New Year's and they're not traveling. So I was able to go round trip to Puerto Rico New Year's Eve. I flew out December 31st and I came back like December the 4th. Or January the 4th, and I was able to get very cheap tickets to Puerto Rico. The only thing is, once I got to Puerto Rico, I didn't realize it was a city that no one does anything for Christmas, so it wasn't lit. The weather was awesome, but it wasn't a lit space for me to travel, because everyone was at home or not on the buses or not traveling by cruise ships. So that wasn't a good. If you want to meet people, because I'm a recluse, it didn't bother me. I enjoyed having the beach to myself. And from Puerto Rico, the second time I went, I flew to Dominican Republic, because it was cheap to book my ticket from Puerto Rico to Dominican Republic. I think it was like $19. And then I flew back from Dominican Republic back to the States. And I flew into Santo Domingo and stayed there. And then I caught the flight out of, definitely think about it. Some tips for traveling is, like I say, navigate it, learn how to navigate it. March is a good time. Well, March and April are dicey because of the spring breakers, but February is a good time to travel. April is dicey, but May and June can start getting expensive. May is a little cheaper. June, July, you can give it up. It gets very expensive depending on where you're traveling to. But also learning how to connect in the United States. So what hubs go where? So Las Vegas is a great hub for going to like Mexico. Also Los Angeles is a good way to get to Mexico cheaply. So maybe doing your own connect. So maybe you book the flight from wherever you are to like Las Vegas and LA, and then booking a flight on to Mexico. I've done the Mexico. I did Tijuana backpack excursion, where I flew into San Diego and caught the subway or trolley to the Tijuana border, and then I crossed by foot. I would not necessarily suggest that. I was with someone. It was an adventure I'll talk about in a different video. So those are examples. I'm trying to think, like Africa. I've done Africa, but I didn't do it in a budget traveling since I've been an adult. I did it in college. I would say be very cognizant of the medical shots that you may or may not need, and then look at where specifically you are going. I don't know if I would attack Africa on foot the way in which I typically do, where I'm just kind of winging it. I would not wing Africa. I would sit down and think about a strategy, because regardless, you're going to pay some money for those tickets unless you figure out a way to travel from another country. So maybe you will fly into Spain because you're going to Spain anyway, and then fly to Africa. That's the only way it's going to be cheap. Or maybe you're going to go to Morocco or Egypt anyway. Then you can travel cheaply to Africa. But as far as buying tickets from the United States, unless it's a glitch, you're gonna pay some money. So make sure you have a plan and make sure you're gonna stay a long amount of time. Other than that, what are some other things? I have not been to Asia yet. It's on my bucket list. I want to go to Thailand. My sister actually lived in Japan, and I was gonna make a trip out that way, but some things happened to where I couldn't get to her, and we both felt it advantageous that I stay in the States. I'm trying to think of where else have I been. A lot of places, and as I move forward with the channel, I'll talk about each of those adventures. So I spent some time in Italy. I've been to Paris a couple of times. I want to say I'm up to my third or fourth time, because every time I'm there, I just swing through, do a drive-by and keep it moving, because I'll make a video.